welcome back, everyone, to Pod of Thrones. I'm Jeff.
I'm Jennifer.
We are back.
Again.
Third episode in a row.
Streak.
I know. It's amazing. I love it when we go on streaks.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of streaking, how you doing over there?
I've got clothes on.
Yeah, you shouldn't.
Just because you're in your underwear doesn't mean
Hey.
I should be in my underwear too.
A shirt on.
Uh-huh.
It would just be nice if you didn't.
If I didn't have a shirt on?
Yes.
Oh, well, I do. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you should be.
But the streaking, speaking of streaking, where was that going?
Well, it's when you run around naked.
Yeah, I know what it is. You just
I just want you to run around naked.
I got it out.
That's all. Okay.
Thought you were going to bring something else up.
No. No. Have you ever gone streaking? Since we're talking about it.
I have gone skinny dipping, which technically you ran from the beach into the water. So, yes. I've
never done either.
Showed
really.
my boobs.
Where?
Is that streaking?
Like New Orleans kind of thing? Like you wanted beads?
Well,
Are you on a Girls Gone Wild video?
probably.
Oh my God.
Probably.
God.
It was at Lake Havasu, so.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh no. All right, someone find that. Just someone take it on. Watch all the Girls Gone Wild videos that ever existed.
Oh my God.
Don't pay money for them. I'm
can't-
sure they're out there for free somewhere.
Yeah, I can't
Find
believe
Jennifer.
those. People got sued over that.
Over being in the video or making the videos?
I think being in the videos.
That guy owns an island. I mean, he did all right.
All the girls are going wild on his island now. It was probably Jeffrey Epstein.
It's similar. I don't remember that guy's name, but I think it's better if history forgets him.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, we're going to talk about Watchmen.
Mm-hmm.
Now that we're done thinking about you being naked.
Now we'll watch men.
If you must. Watchmen Season 1, Episode 3, or the only season, I guess, called She Was Killed by Space Junk. They really just go for it with the name.
Yeah. It's very creative. I mean, the last one was kind of creative.
I don't even remember what the last one was.
It was about the Comanche.
Martial feats of Comanche horsemanship.
Uh-huh.
Horsemanship. Yeah. Yes, I remember that.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so there is a lot to unpack in this episode, at least in terms of characters being introduced or revealed. And it all starts with this cool little, like, telephone booth thing in the middle of, I guess, Tulsa.
Mm-hmm.
This episode takes things a little bit out of time, is the impression I got.
I don't know that it was Tulsa, but it felt like it was somewhere else.
Well, because I think it was just one continuous call through the whole episode. And then when she walks out of the booth at the end, I'm pretty sure that was.
Oh, yeah, I thought she was coming back over and over.
I don't think so. I think it was just one
long
very long call. One very long joke. Yeah, a joke. So I was very excited. Okay, so what, the phone booth is the Orbital Array?
Right. It's the phone to Mars.
The phone to Mars, yeah. Which everybody needs a phone to Mars.
It's like E.T. phone home.
Uh-huh. And I was very excited to see Jean Smart, who most people that are our age, at least, might know from Designing Women.
Right.
As she was one of the women that designed.
Uh-huh.
I also know her from a long guest stint on Frasier, where she was awesome.
Was she his girlfriend?
Sort of. A little bit dating. I think they had sex a couple times, but she's kind of crazy and he couldn't handle her. But then they became friends.
I think I remember that.
It was pretty good.
I recollect.
So I was very excited to see her. And we know immediately she's calling Dr. Manhattan.
Right.
So there is no other reason to call Mars anyway. There's only one guy up there.
But he doesn't answer.
So the first thing I'm thinking is, because Jean Smart's a little older, though still kind of hot. What I wrote down in my notes was Sally Jupiter ? Because that seemed like that might fit. But then I had that just a wee bit wrong. But I was still a little bit proud of myself for being close. But we'll get to her identity in a bit. But it is, in fact, a Jupiter-related thing. Do you remember all that from the movie?
I do, yes. She was, yeah.
Well, we're going to talk about that.
Okay.
But let's let's get a little bit in until we, like they reveal her identity.
Do it. Go.
All right. So same lady, but this is where we're kind of time hopping here. So she's telling this story in the phone booth through the whole episode. But then what we see in the past is her walking into a bank. There's some dude keeping an eye on her. Don't know what that's about. And then she's robbing the bank. She pulls out a gun.
I don't know that it was in the past. She's still the same age.
Well, like a month or a week in the past, or whatever it was. Yeah. So she's robbing the bank.
Right.
And the other guys are her accomplices.
Yep.
All these guys pull out guns. And then a guy that we come to know as Mr. Shadow shows up. And I kind of loved him. He was definitely Batman.
Mm-hmm.
Except without the bat on his chest.
Too bad they didn't name him like Bat Shadow or
well, they probably get sued
Shadow
for that.
Man or
Mr. Shadow. Very creative. He's there to stop her. And he seems like he is almost kind of a badass. He takes a couple guys out.
Right.
But then
she shoots him.
She
she
reveals that she's FBI and says he's under arrest. And then he tries to run. So she shoots him in the back.
Yeah.
And
everybody's like, what? That was kind of uncalled for.
And it's all because vigilantism is illegal, of course. I mean, it is in our world too, but we don't have many people in masks and capes running around.
What's the difference between a vigilante and the Ku Klux Klan? Ku Klux Klan.
Or Special K. What are they called? The Cavalry.
The Kalvary, right.
Cavalry.
What's the difference?
I mean, the difference is stopping crimes versus committing crimes, but that's sometimes subjective, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
So that's
so this man is committing a crime.
And he wasn't, and then he got shot in the back. But he's okay, thankfully. His suit was armored, just like a good Batman would be.
Yeah, and as she's walking away, the guy says, her like right hand man, he's like, "How'd you know his armor would stop your bullets?"
She just kind of rolls her eyes. She didn't give a shit.
Right.
And at this point, it's like, well, who is this lady that's calling Dr. Manhattan? And why would she be shooting masked crusaders? Because if she's who I thought she was, then she was a masked blah, 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 blah. I don't know. It's a little confusing. She went on some kind of journey. She gets outside, and we get to see a little bit of world building here because the FBI has surrounded this bank, and there is a crowd that is very angry at the FBI for taking this guy down.
Right.
They were
they want the vigilantes.
Yeah, they were pro Mr. Shadow.
He's a hero.
And she gets home. She feeds a mouse to something. I don't know. And she plays some Devo, which was a nice song choice. She grew up in the 80s, after all. And then she opens a mysterious silver briefcase.
A big briefcase.
But we don't get to see what's inside just yet.
Right. You think it's going to be like some kind of special sci-fi
it's totally
way of calling Mars. Or
right,
something.
right. That's exactly it. Like a satellite uplink.
It was like E.T.'s little contraption thing that they made.
Yes. Well, that's what we thought it would be.
That's what we thought.
That's not what it turned out to be.
No.
I'm sure all you know what it turned out to be, but we're going to save it anyway. But there's a knock on the door, so she has to put her briefcase away for now. She'll have that later. And she gets a visit from Senator Keene. And at this point, when he introduces himself, he identifies her for us, exposition-wise. She is Agent Laurie Blake. So let's unpack that real quick.
Okay.
So we know Sally Jupiter.
Right.
Now, what do you remember of Sally Jupiter from the Watchmen movie that you watched?
That she was raped by the Joker guy.
The comedian.
The comedian, right. And she was also lover of Dr. Manhattan. Is that right? Wasn't she his girlfriend?
Yeah, I thought she was, but now when I read up on her, that must have been someone else. I guess. Yeah, I don't think that was actually her. But here's the thing. So what we saw in the movie was that she was almost raped by the comedian.
I thought she was.
And then this other dude, Hooded Justice, steps in and beat the living shit out of the comedian and saved the day. But and so Sally went on with her life, and her superhero name was Silk Spectre. Sally Jupiter was actually her like normal name, even though that was also a pseudonym. But she went on, she got married later on, blah, blah, blah. And she had a baby, but it turns out that she had a consensual affair with the comedian a few years after the attempted rape because...
Oh, that's what it was.
Because we're all damaged goods.
Right. And doesn't her daughter get pissed off at her for that or something? Or maybe it was just me.
I think both.
Maybe it was just me.
Yeah, so that gave us Laurel Jane, a.k.a. Laurie, Juxtaposed.
Juxtaposed.
Or Juxtaposed. I don't know.
Juxtaposed.
I don't know where the accent is on those syllables.
It's Juxtaposed.
I think it's Polish, so Juxtaposed. So she could have been Laurie Jupiter, but she was also like Silk Spectre 2 or something. Like she wound up taking on her mom's persona.
Right.
And in the movie, we see her having romantic involvement with, well, first Dr. Manhattan, and then she actually had real feelings for Night Owl.
That's right, Night Owl.
Which in the movie led to a hell of a sex scene. I mean, brief, but kind of intense.
Now, Night Owl's flying contraption was very similar to the police's.
Right. I mentioned that at the time. Yeah. Very similar design. And this is 30, 40 years later, right? So I guess he was just ahead of his time, maybe, or shared the technology later with crime fighters, or they stole it.
Maybe they're related. Maybe Night Owl is related to Judd.
Judd, whatever.
Judd.
Crawford.
Yeah.
Maybe, or maybe that's just how technology wound up evolving in the future.
I mean, it's silly looking. Why not just one big window?
That's a good question, dear. I don't have a good answer for that, unfortunately, but it's a good point. So what's really interesting, and I hope we get to find out more about this, because in the movie, she's Laurie Jupiter, fine. But in this show, she's Laurie Blake. And the story I'm hoping we get before the show is over is why she changed her name to Blake, because that is the comedian's last name. Yeah. So she like completely abandoned her maternal, and
see, I felt like we found out that she was his daughter.
No, she did. So I mean, fine, she has a connection to her dad, but her dad was also an asshole.
Okay, well, I mean, maybe her name was always Blake.
But maybe her mom was kind of an asshole too.
Her mom was an asshole, from what I recall, when she got old.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't know. There might be a story there later. We haven't watched ahead yet, so I don't know. But I just hope that there's something to come of that, because I think it's sort of neat trivia. Okay, so what else do we learn? So she's Agent Laurie Blake, and she welcomes Senator Keene in. We find out the thing she fed a mouse to earlier was an owl. His name is Who. But the owl thing, Night Owl, her former lover.
Maybe yes.
I mean, I don't think they're together anymore. Okay, so she finds out she's getting sent to Tulsa to investigate Judd's murder because Senator Keene thinks it was a vigilante or vigilantes, which is her specialty. He talks about DOPA, the Defense of Police Act. That's the act that put them all in masks. And he says that act has led to an 80% decrease in crime.
Right, and
Explain.
Other cities want to adopt it. I can't explain
How does that work?
I don't.
That's the best I could think of, is that the masks make the police sort of a more intimidating force and no one wants to fuck with them.
Well,
because they can't even get their guns out. So it's not like they're more dangerous.
I don't know. The police are the crime people.
Maybe it's psychological. Stormtroopers couldn't hit the broadside of a barn with their blasters, but everyone was afraid of them.
True.
Talking about Star Wars stormtroopers, not Nazi stormtroopers. Those guys could probably shoot stuff. I don't know. Anyway, he says masks save lives. When it's for the police, anyway. But as they're talking, she has this big painting behind her, and it's one of those kind of fluorescent style, like 4 square paintings, almost
it's her.
Almost like what's that artist?
Andy Warhol.
Warhol, right? Almost like the Warhol Marilyn Monroe, except it's for Watchmen. One of them is presumably her.
Right.
Yeah.
And one of them was Dr. Manhattan. Who were the other two?
I was afraid you were going to ask that. I didn't write that down.
Yeah,
I think one was Night Owl, but maybe Rorschach. No, I don't think it was Rorschach. It was probably
Night Owl.
It might have been Ozymandias. See, so Ozymandias went down not necessarily as a villain in terms of the public perception of him after the whole giant squid thing. They decided to cover up his actions because it did bring the Earth. His goal was to stop nuclear war. Like Russia and America were about to have nuclear war. And Ozymandias' plan was, let's give everyone something else to rally around. Giant squid. In the movie, it was nuclear blasts all over the planet, but he was framing Dr. Manhattan for it. So then the whole world unites behind, we hate Dr. Manhattan. Mm-hmm. But in this case, it was a giant, I guess, telepathic squid. And the goal was to think that Earth was being invaded by aliens. And it worked. Like, they started, the Earth rallied around the concept that aliens were coming. Not necessarily that the peace would last forever, but it did work.
So we need giant squid right now.
So maybe. Are we on the brink of nuclear? We're on the brink of civil war. We need something to band the country together.
Right.
If anything. I don't know what that would be.
Pandemic, not.
That didn't work. You'd think it would. You fucking think that would work. Any one of us could die to this tiny microbe, and it actually made things worse. Fuck. All right. So anyway, next day, she's at an FBI briefing, and we learn a little bit about the Seventh Cavalry. They popped up after something called the Victims of Racial Violence Act happened. Remember that? We talked about that last episode.
Sure.
That was the Tulsa, what I guess would be called Redfordation.
Right.
Yeah. So they start talking about Seventh Cavalry, how they worship Rorschach. They show a page of Rorschach's journal. We freeze framed that just to try to read it. Nothing important, but definitely not a fun dude that you would want to hang out with. Like, even though he was kind of a hero stopping crime and investigating murders of his friends, he had some real problems with commies and gays, and he thinks everyone's into kiddie porn, which is just straight QAnon shit right there.
Maybe they are.
Well, I'm sure there are some people at the top.
That letter didn't say everybody.
No, not everybody, but the left is kind of where he was going. Like, he's a hard right dude. And what little you could read from that page, it just immediately flashed me to this whole QAnon conspiracy of how all the top Democrats and Hollywood stars in the world are secretly running a pedophile ring.
Out of a pizza joint.
Out of probably multiple pizza joints by this point.
Right.
Yeah.
Domino's. It's Papa John's.
You got to spread it out. Papa John?
Yeah.
That's why he got ousted, because he was kind of a conservative dude and possibly racist. Mm-hmm. But now they're using his, I'm sure that's what it is. So anyway, Rorschach, not a cool guy, but he's the inspiration for the Seventh Cavalry. I did notice maybe Seventh Cavalry isn't like a huge headline. Maybe it's just a Tulsa group and they haven't gotten a lot of FBI attention yet, because Laurie seemed surprised to learn that they wore Rorschach masks. She didn't say anything, but when they said that, she looked unsettled, I thought.
I don't recall that, but okay.
And they talked about the White Knight, how most cops on the force quit right after that. So that's why the cops started hiding their faces and, keeping their job secret.
Right. So, okay. The masks save lives of the cops, not of everybody else.
Well, but crime's down 80%. So if that's true, if crime is really down 80% after the cops started wearing masks, then in theory, less violent crime all over the city would mean that the masks for the cops are saving lives for everybody. I guess. But this all seems shady.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, you got people sitting around with fat panda heads on, and glass faces, and red masks, and
damn those fat panda heads. Those are the worst.
Yeah, it's all dirty.
It really looks like it's been through the ringer. God, at least get a mask you can wash. It just doesn't
seem like a well put together police force.
But the guys in the standard street officers, whatever they're called,
they're all right.
They look pretty uniform, and
they
clean.
Have a yellow mask. Now, how is that saving their life? You see a yellow mask coming and you want to kill a cop, you just shoot the yellow mask guy.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, they could still be wearing vests in the field. It's just, they're not going to be the victim of home invasions.
This is not a good plan.
I don't know.
It's not a good plan.
Senator Keene seems a little fishy.
He's young. He's too young to be a senator.
He's running for president.
He's too young.
All right.
He doesn't have enough life experience.
So the FBI is going to send a whole team to Tulsa, and Laurie says, "No, you dumbass. The cops aren't going to take to that. I'm going in alone." And the guy's like, "No, you got to take someone with you." And she says, "Fine, this nerdy dude that runs the AV projector."
Right.
And I guess his name is Petey.
He's like, what's his name on The Office? He's like Jared.
Okay.
That's what he reminds me of, Jared.
Sure. Yeah. Uh-huh. Wait, was he Jared on The Office? No, he was Jared in Silicon Valley. But that guy, if you've watched The Office, tall, spindly guy. That guy.
Mm-hmm.
I feel bad I can't remember his name on The Office now.
He's funny.
The kids would be ashamed if they saw me fall apart for this one. All right. Anyway, as they fly to Tulsa, they pass the Millennium Clock. We don't really get to see it, but it's a big structure that's way up in the sky and or from the ground to the sky. Very tall structure. And it was built by the Trieu Corporation after Mrs. Trieu bought Veight's company. So that's a reference to Ozymandias, Adrian Veidt, the bad guy, sort of, from Watchmen. And we also learned that Petey knows that Laurie Blake used to be Silk Spectre, because she's like, "Hey, want an autograph, you piece of shit?" And he backs off. But
he doesn't just back off. He's like, "Hey, fuck you."
Doesn't he do that later?
In the plane, he does that.
Does he? I don't know. I didn't think he stood up for himself at that point. I thought that was later, but maybe. But she's still not so keen on her past life. But Petey does mention a rumor that Adrian Veidt never died. Like the whole sale of his company to Trieu or whatever was part of setting him up somewhere else under a different name.
Mm.
And then the gears in my head started turning a little bit. But we'll come back to that later.
Well, they were already turning because you mentioned it last episode.
Did I?
Yeah, you did.
About Jeremy Irons?
Uh-huh.
I don't remember that. Well, I guess I'm just so smart. Okay, so they get to Tulsa. Laurie starts her investigation. She goes to Crawford's tree, his hanging tree. And then she goes to his house.
She sees the wheelchair marks like everybody else should have.
Well, she doesn't talk about it at that point, but yes, she did take actual notes of the crime scene.
They showed it on the ground, yes.
Oh, I don't remember that. I must have blinked, or I was taking notes. Okay, I remember she talked about it later. She goes to Crawford's house. We don't see what she does in there. We just see her ring the doorbell or whatever and presumably get let in. But then we find out more about that later too. Mm-hmm. And then she drives up to a warehouse and a big truck pulls up and Red Scare and Pirate Jenny, two of our masked Tulsa officers, come out and they have a suspect.
Right.
And she walks up and says she's looking for Looking Glass. So... all right, I guess we'll let her in.
They're getting ready to totally beat the crap out of this. Well, I mean,
I think they're
taking him in. Right. They're just horrible people.
They have no tolerance for anyone that could possibly maybe be Seventh Cavalry.
That doesn't give them the right to treat people as if the Kalvary would have treated them. That's what makes them police officers. And good people.
What do you want me to say, babe? The cops. There's a lot of people die in custody or get horribly injured in custody.
Yeah, I know. I know. It's mental illness all around.
Okay. So they let her into this warehouse, and it turns out it's this major police processing facility where I guess maybe everyone from Nixonville from last episode is being interrogated. So Looking Glass is apparently the only guy that can do that.
Right. He's got some kind of special Looking Glass power.
He's interrogating all... maybe he's the guy that invented the pod.
I think he is. He might be, but...
maybe he's a psychiatrist or something.
I think he's also... right. I think he's also got some kind of super knowledge about when people lie. He's a lie detector.
Well, he's very good at watching their pupils dilate and stuff. So he's interrogating people. She wants to see how the pod works, so we get to learn a little bit. He talks about, watching their responses, the subtle movements of their eyes.
He's all tough guy, and she's like, give me that thing.
she's making fun of him, really, more than anything. She's just kind of picking on him.
She fixes her teeth in front of his face.
And she knows exactly who he is. She knows he's Wade Tillman, that he goes by Looking Glass, and so he's willing to bring his mask up after she embarrasses him.
He just looks like a puppy with his tail between his legs.
She is not someone you want to fuck with. So they talk about how there's no confessions yet. They talk about his autopsy. She read the notes. She knows that they didn't do tox screening.
Right. They didn't check for drugs.
Mm-hmm. She also knows about the raid on the cattle ranch. And she has suspicions about how they got the info on the cattle ranch relating to Sister Night possibly beating the shit out of someone. And that's one of those interesting things that you figure possibly happens in real life, where, remember, Sister Night, Angela, took that guy off to another room somewhere.
Beat him so bad that blood started running out from under the door.
Right. But what did Looking Glass say to Laurie? I didn't see anything.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't.
I can neither confirm nor deny.
He's not lying, though. Right. And that it's so easy to put yourself in a situation where you're not lying, but you know exactly what the fuck happened.
Yeah. I mean, I saw a little bit of blood come out from under the door, but who knows whose that was.
Could have been hers.
Maybe she was on her period. I don't know.
I wasn't going to say that, but I'm glad you did.
That time of the month. The blood tide.
If I had said that, we'd get canceled for sure. And she also knows that Sister Night is Angela Abar. Glass at this point seems shaken by her intimate knowledge of who's who on the Tulsa police force. So again, Laurie.
How does she know?
Not someone you want to fuck with. She used to be a superhero, man. She's better at investigating than all those other FBI fuckers. I'm sure. Right. So now it's time to get ready for Judd's funeral.
I bet she's like, I better go put on some darker clothes. Wasn't she wearing like a long black coat?
Yeah, I think she was. So outside, we come to the Tartarus Acres, which is a hell of a name for a cemetery. Tartarus being
that
one
was
of
kind
the
of weird.
Tartarus was one of the realms in Hades' underworld in Greek mythology.
I'm glad you're smart, because I did not know that. Just thought it was a strange name.
And there's protesters aplenty outside the cemetery.
Why would they name a cemetery that?
You know what? I'm gonna look, because I know it was part of Hades. But
that seems like a horrible place to be buried.
I don't know if it was like a good place or a bad place, because Hades, the underworld, wasn't necessarily all bad. It was where everybody went.
Oh, that's the waiting room. Is it bad?
It's bad. Tartarus is the deep abyss that is used as a dungeon of torment and suffering for the wicked, and is the prison for the Titans.
Well, what the fuck? Why would anybody name a cemetery that?
And that's where you bury your most honored citizen, your chief of police.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, it's pretty sad. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
I like where this is going. It gives people some homework to do.
So Laurie introduces herself to Angela and Calvin. She knows who Calvin is too. She has done a lot of homework.
Right.
And then tells a little joke, I guess.
And the kids, I think.
Yes.
She
knows everybody.
Mm-hmm.
But she tells, I guess, a joke of, you know how you can tell the difference between a masked cop and a vigilante? And Angela says no. And then Laurie says, me neither.
That's what I just said. That's what she said.
I mean, I guess that's a joke, but yeah, Laurie.
It's the truth.
Laurie's not a fan of these masked cops. That's the impression I get.
Oh my goodness. This is exactly where society is going right now.
Let's see. Jane asks Angela to give a little spiel at the ceremony to talk about Judd, which Angela didn't really want to do, but she did it. And meanwhile, we see a dude in a Rorschach mask breaking into the mausoleum and setting up a bomb, like a mausoleum nearby.
Mm-hmm.
So crawling through a tunnel. No one thought of that. So he comes out, interrupts the funeral, says Senator Key must surrender himself or I'm going to push the button and everyone's going to blow up. Oh, calls him a race traitor.
Traitor or
Race
traitor?
traitor. Not traitor.
Okay.
That'd be
Well,
weird.
I mean, that just means he's white and they think he shouldn't like black people or whatever. Or
Well,
other races.
So the dynamic this sets up for me is interesting because it seems like part of the time it feels like the cops are pieces of shit. And then you have to wonder if the cops are pieces of shit, then maybe cavalry are going to turn out to be the good guys. But the cops are always like these racist fucking redneck 7th Cavalry KKK motherfuckers. But if you're calling someone a race traitor, so the 7th Cavalry are definitely the bad guys. Or
well, now
wait
a second.
The cops could also be bad guys.
So they found the KKK thing in his closet.
Angela
right?
did.
Angela
and she
did.
took
right,
it.
Right. So maybe the guy is saying that he's a race traitor because he actually really is a racist.
Keen? He was talking
The
to
cop.
Keen. The cavalry guy was called Keen a race
Who's
traitor.
Keen?
The senator.
Oh, I thought he was calling the
No,
dead guy.
No,
the
he
cop.
wanted Keen to come with him and called Keen out for being a race traitor. So
What was he going to do with him?
they can all be dickheads.
But we haven't actually seen them be racist.
The Rorschach guys?
Yeah. Have we?
We haven't seen them do really anything.
Right.
We saw
Except
them
for taking watch batteries.
we saw them with a bunch of watch batteries and they tried to get away with their watch batteries.
And, I mean, the guy shot the guy, but he was a cop. So maybe he was shooting him because he was a cop.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah, we haven't had any concrete evidence of what these guys want or are
Kalvary.
capable of. Oh, I guess they massacred on the White Knight too, but then
Maybe
Judd's
that
got
wasn't the
skeletons
same
in his
people.
closet and fuck. I mean, they were wearing Rorschach masks.
True.
Maybe there are really Watchmen. We still haven't actually seen them, like actual masked heroes. And the cops are bad guys and the cavalry are bad guys. And the Watchmen's job is to get rid of all of them. And then there will be no cops or Rorschach guys.
Well, I guess we'll
I
find
don't
out.
know. Anyway, Laurie shoots the guy and the bomb's going to blow. And Angela saves the day with Judd's coffin.
Poor Judd.
Yeah. I mean,
Blows him to pieces.
it's an interesting way to desecrate a corpse. Judd will go down in history.
Now, do you think they just swept everything into the hole and covered it with some dirt? I mean, what do you do at that point?
Buried with the exploded terrorist.
Somebody's got to pick up all of his pieces and put him in a new coffin.
Well, but also you'd have to separate Judd's pieces from the terrorist pieces.
True. How do you do that?
Oh, it's a lot of DNA
Now
testing
they
and
got to be buried
guesswork.
together.
Just cremate everything.
But still,
Just one big ball of ashes. I don't know.
poor
It's a
cemetery
mess.
cleanup guys.
Yeah. The people working at the cemetery are going to have a bad day. And that's always the way it is when superheroes do shit, right?
Yeah.
Like someone has to clean all that up. There, you never see one of the Incredible Hulk out there later sweeping up broken glass or picking up pieces of metal that fell off.
That would be hilarious. If
It
they
would
make
be.
another one, they should do that.
Well, there was something else. Both Marvel and DC and Star Trek, I think, were all working towards this. And I don't know what ever made it to air and what didn't. But there was going to be one was like an insurance company in one of the comic book universes that cleans up after the superheroes. And one was similar, just like guys whose job it was to take care of the city after the superheroes were done wrecking it. And then in Star Trek, they were doing one called Lower Decks. I think it was an animated show that was about just the other guys on the Enterprise that have to deal with
That's
everything else
hilarious.
that's left behind.
Poor lower deck guys.
It's like the new Rage.
It's like the caste system.
It is. Maybe it's society pushing on entertainment and there's something going on there. Some kind of uprising is necessary. Now in the show, it's time for Jeremy Irons, but holy fuck, I'm just going to come back to that at the end.
Okay, because he's a crazy.
Nothing makes sense. Okay, so Senator Keene has survived this bombing, kidnapping attempt thing, and he has a press conference. He's talking about how great it was that they saved his life and 7th Cavalry's bad. He does mention something about Russians building an intrinsic field generator.
Right.
No idea what that is, but if I had to take a guess, I'd say it's something that could stop Dr. Manhattan. Hurt him. Some kind of field that would block his special blue particles. That's
his blue
only
penis.
a guess. Just his penis. Okay. Angela's investigating the mausoleum tunnel. Laurie brings her some coffee. They have a little talk. Laurie was going to exhume Crawford the next day, but now she can't because everything went kablooey.
I mean, they could still get a chunk and do a tox screen on it.
I don't know what you need for that from a corpse. Like, do you need flesh or do you need some dried up blood or
I don't know. I mean,
brain tissue? I don't know. Hair follicles. You can drug test hair follicles,
true.
I think. So in terms of Judd's murder, Laurie's thinking maybe it wasn't the cavalry that killed him. And one thing that is leading her down new paths is that there were these tire tracks at the base of the tree from a wheelchair. And it's weird that no one noticed that. And when Laurie was investigating, she also found the secret compartment in Judd's closet. And there's like a dummy there, but there's no outfit on it. That's kind of weird.
That is weird.
But she knows Angela knows everything. So she's trying to intimidate Sister Knight. But Angela isn't having it. And she has some words for Laurie and then walks away and doesn't take the coffee.
Pours her coffee out all. I ain't drink your coffee.
Mm-hmm. So Laurie's had a long day. She goes back to her hotel, breaks out her briefcase. Take it away, babe.
She wanted to relax. She needed some stress relief.
Right. And what better way for stress relief than
a gigantic blue dildo dong vibrating thing.
Dong. With attachable balls.
Right.
They're like magnetic.
It is so big. What's the point of the balls? Maybe just a handle. But you couldn't even reach them. It's so big. That would not. Maybe because she's a superhero, she's got super vagina.
You wouldn't.
I would not enjoy that. Please never get that kind of thing for me ever.
Who, me? No. Or are you talking to just generally to the audience? If
yes,
we're going to send
please
you a
don't
present?
Send any.
Don't send that.
It was so big. And she kind of looked at it like, but then she goes and knocks on the guy next door.
Petey. I just want to say before we talk about little Petey, though, we've seen the movie. Like, that is not an accurate representation of Dr. Manhattan's
No,
dick.
He's not that big.
I thought it was kind of normal. Like
Pretty normal. I mean, a little bigger than average, probably. Hanging out there all the time.
When dangling.
Right.
And it's probably because he's like radioactive, so he's warm all the time. No time for shrinkage in his world. Yeah.
Yes.
Anyway, the dong, I don't think it's accurate.
No, it isn't. It's comically enormous. But I always come back to the time in the Watchmen movie when he says to Jane, is that her name? Anyway, his girlfriend.
Laurie.
Laurie?
Right.
I don't know.
That's.
He says, like, okay, so they're all getting all sexy time, and then he's got another one of him comes in, and he starts like rubbing on her, and it's going to be like a threesome or something. And she doesn't want that. And he's like, but I thought you'd like that. And,
I thought that would bring you pleasure.
Right.
It's all very mechanical for him anyway. Like, he wants to pleasure her because some part of him cares about her, but he doesn't understand.
He doesn't get
anymore.
Pleasure out of it.
Yeah, I don't think so.
So strange.
Although he must get something. I mean, he got a boner.
He could probably do whatever he wants with his body.
Yeah, he could just will it into being.
Yes. But, okay, why is it so big? And that cannot fit in her. And it can't feel good. Let me just say. Even the shape of it, it's just like smooth and
Well, that's better, right? Wouldn't that be for fitting it?
If it's fitting, yes.
For a fitting perspective.
For a fitting perspective, yes. But a woman needs ridges in order to feel the pleasure. You got to have some shape and some form and some bumps and some ridges. That thing is all smooth and gigantic. It doesn't feel good. That's why she went and knocked on the guy's door. But just get a normal thing. Why?
Well, I'm happy for Petey in any case. Because he just got to fuck a superhero.
But I mean, his must have been sad
right.
compared to that giant thing for her, if that's what she's
Maybe
used
she
to.
was just too tired to get herself worked up enough.
She wanted human.
She needed human contact.
Human contact.
Okay. Well, I guess so. So she goes out to fuck Petey. So after fucking Petey, that appears to be when she goes to make the phone call that we see little pieces of throughout the episode.
Maybe.
And it's this whole long thing. First, she's talking about a bricklayer and a daughter, and the daughter keeps an extra brick after the bricklayer makes his beautiful oven.
She throws it up in the air.
Well, but then also the story of these superheroes that die and go up to heaven and have to prove to God that they're worthy of being in heaven, but he winds up sending them out of hell one by one for different reasons. And then all of a sudden this brick lands and kills God. And it's like, what happened? How'd you kill God? And the girl's like, I threw the brick or something like that. It's this long, long story.
Now she's God.
What was the point? The
point was that maybe she feels like she's God. I don't know.
Maybe it was, I guess it was supposed to be a joke of some sort again. Like, I don't think she has a great sense of humor, but she is the daughter of the comedian and he wasn't very funny. So maybe there's something to that. But she gives this whole long diatribe, this big long story, and then she exits the Mars booth. And as she's walking away, a car falls from the sky.
Right.
And so she thinks it was John throwing that at her, and she just starts laughing her ass off.
Where did he get that car if that was him?
He can just make shit. He can just, boom, there's a car now.
Okay.
Yep.
I thought maybe it was the people that picked up the guy from before, but it wasn't the same car.
Well, yeah, I was thinking that too. Like maybe a spaceship was just flying away and dropped off a car right in front of her. Maybe just send a message or something. But she seemed to think it was funny, so it was probably John, or she thinks it was John.
Why doesn't he just say hello instead of dropping cars right in front of her?
He's on Mars.
Say hello through the telephone booth.
Oh, that was more like a voicemail system. I don't know.
He's
man.
an all-powerful being. He can say hello.
I would like to know why and how a corporation got involved to make a system to send voicemails to the guy that doesn't care about humanity anymore who lives on Mars.
Well, I thought maybe he did it.
But it was that corporation, the Triu Corporation. There's a lot of stuff that doesn't make sense yet.
I'm thinking about the thing that he built on Mars. Why did he do that?
We don't know.
Okay.
He was doing that in the movie too.
Right.
We saw that whole structure he built, and then he destroyed it because it wasn't time yet or right or something. I don't know. And Laurie asked him to come back to Earth. All those things. Okay, so let's just talk about the rest of this shit.
Sorry.
Because all of a sudden it's Jeremy Irons' time. In the middle of all these other things happening, right after the big explosion that blew up Judd, dead Judd, all of a sudden it's Jeremy Irons again. So we get a whole Jeremy Irons side story.
He's strapping this guy into, he's making a suit.
He made a diving suit,
mm-hmm.
What appears to be a diving suit, like an old-timey diving suit. And he puts it on Mr. Phillips, one of the Mr. Phillipses. And we don't see what happened. But Mr. Phillips is suddenly very dead.
He tied a rope to him?
Well, I thought it was one of those air hoses.
I thought it was just a rope. I don't know. It's probably an air hose.
Could have been both. And then Mr. Phillips is dead. And frozen.
And frozen.
Very
yes.
frozen.
I mean, he made it a long ways.
A long way into what?
The atmosphere.
Is that what you're thinking? I was kind of thinking that too, because it looked like a diving suit for water, but being frozen like that.
Right. Now, how long could that hose possibly be?
Talking about Dr. Manhattan?
I'm talking about Mr. Phillips.
Not long enough, I guess. But if Mr. Phillips got all the way into space and then froze, wouldn't he have thawed on re-entry? Maybe there's something else going on. Maybe it's not blasting into space. Maybe there's some teleportation thing happening. Maybe the mysterious Jeremy Irons invented a teleportation machine. I could see that maybe. So Mr. Phillips is very dead, very frozen, and Jeremy Irons is very unhappy about it.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Beats the shit out of that frozen corpse.
Stomps on him.
And then goes off to hunt a buffalo. Because the shit just needs to be weirder and less sensical. So he got a bow, shoots a buffalo right in the eye. Good shot, admittedly. Bow hunting, just instant kill. And then he tries to go get the buffalo body, and someone with a gun very far away shoots at his feet. And then Jeremy's like, I'm mad, and I'm going to go away now.
Right.
So he gets home. It's time for cake.
Time for cake again.
But he doesn't want it.
It's the anniversary.
He's pissed off, and he goes off to meditate, which is a great thing. It's too bad he exploded all over his people first. But going to meditate to calm yourself down, great practice. Better than killing people.
Yes, if we could all do that. I mean, be a different world.
Yep. And as he's meditating, he gets a letter in the mail from the game warden. And the letter says that Mr. Irons is violating the terms of his captivity. So, Jeremy Irons is a prisoner somewhere. And he said, like, the shot at your foot was a warning, but there's not going to be any more warnings. So, leave my buffalo alone or I'm going to kick your ass.
Well, didn't it say something also about him trying to escape? It appears that you're trying to escape.
Not that I recall.
Okay.
Not to say you're wrong. I don't remember that part, though. So he dictates a letter to Mrs. Crookshanks, who types it up for him, saying, let's put all this behind us. Everything's going to be great.
Oh, I love the pleasantries of both of them. The one's like,
it's very
by the way, I enjoyed your tomatoes very much.
Oh, yeah.
And then at the end, I'm glad you enjoyed the tomatoes.
And he signs the letter Adrian Veidt.
Right.
So at least something makes sense, even though that's only one small piece of the larger Jeremy Irons puzzle that makes no sense. One piece makes sense. It's Ozymandias from the original Watchmen. And we see him put on his purple and gold Ozymandias outfit.
Right. Which
looks great in real life. Yep. It's one thing when it's purple and gold in the comic books. But it's really something as a costume in real life. So, theories? What's he up to?
I don't know what his powers were.
He is the smartest man alive, but he's also kind of a badass. He was able to, and this, even in the comic books where most of the people weren't as super as they were in the movie, he was able to save his own life. Laurie actually tried to shoot him for doing the whole giant squid thing. And he caught the bullet with his hand. So he has amazing reflexes. So definitely a badass, but also the smartest man alive. That was his thing.
Well, I don't know. I mean, this is weird. What's he going to do? If he's in captivity, he's clearly can't get out yet because his experiment failed.
Yeah, maybe his experiment is an escape route. Maybe.
Why can't he get out? Just go to the wall and jump over.
We haven't seen a wall.
I know.
He could be on an island, in which case a diving suit would be helpful, but doesn't explain the freezing part.
Ooh.
Unless there's like a frozen wall or mist or something around his island.
Maybe he's in a greenhouse type place.
He's under a dome.
Yeah.
That could be. My only other thought is maybe he is trying to get to space and it has something to do with Dr. Manhattan.
Right. That's what I was thinking. Why else would he want to be going to space? He needs to get to Dr. Manhattan.
He wants to visit Mars because he doesn't have access to one of those phone booths. There's not one of those on his prison island.
Well, it's not like the phone booth does any good anyway. It not only drops cars on you.
He doesn't want that. A broken car would really mess up his tranquil countryside.
I don't know. Maybe he's just going to run around in his purple suit for a while.
just scamper through the countryside.
Right. He's naked. He's in his like diaper looking thing for his meditation things. And he's in his writing suit all the time. He just likes outfits and stuff.
He's pretty fit for an old dude.
He sure is.
Yeah.
Good job on him.
I'm not going to look that good. I'm trying. I'm working out, but it's not happening. I'm sorry. I apologize in advance.
It could happen.
Okay.
If you believe it.
All right.
Be it.
Here's hoping. Anyway, so that's episode 3. We're going to go watch episode 4 now.
It's so crazy.
Because we got to find out what the hell's happening.
I just don't know if I can handle this roller coaster. It's exhausting.
Yep. But I think it's only 8 episodes. So we're already almost halfway through.
All right. I want some ginger ale.
You got it, lady. Ginger ale it is. I have some ginger beer.
Yay.
You can have some of that.
All right.
All right. I guess that's how we'll leave it. We're going to go drink ginger beer and watch episode 4.
Yay.
So, hooray. Can't wait to see what Naked Jeremy Irons does next. Naked Jeremy Irons. And maybe he's in love. Maybe it's like he's trying to get ready to be naked all the time around Dr. Manhattan.
Oh, maybe.
And they can rub their little wieners together.
What's that called?
Oh, docking.
Docking.
Oh, God.
Let's go see the docking.